Hashem, your deeds, the deeds that you've done. But the thoughts behind them are very deep. I see you from your deeds. I see there's something there. But your thoughts, and as Ramban says there, it concerns human free will. That's where the whole thing seems to go into a much deeper level, that there's free will. And still, through free will, you bring about your plan. I can see bringing about your plan through plants and animals. But bringing about your plan through human beings are free will, that's awesome. And we'll see in a moment, there's a verse in the Psalms which the Mekubalim go into called Nora Alila. God, you're awesome in the way you frame the children of men. You bring things about based on their actions in such a way that it seems totally unfair. And yet you're the one who's bringing them about. So we're trying to enter here into a space here where at first it's going to seem tremendously unfair what's going on, and yet when we have the bigger picture, we see, the way I like to say it is that Hashem will reveal to us the true story behind all the stories. And at first we won't understand, and especially the big questions like the Holocaust. Hashem, why did you do that? And He'll reveal to us. He'll reveal to us by placing something in our heart. And He'll look at us and say, do you understand? And with all of our might, we'll try and overcome the answer that we've just gotten. And we'll say, yeah, but still, how could you have done it that way? So many people suffered. And He'll give us more divine light until the only reaction will be, wow, that's so awesome. You did all of that in order to give us all of that. You put us through all of that, and you put yourself through it too, in order to give us the awesome love that you have. That's where I'm going all this, is that there's an apparent reality and that there's an overriding context within which the lower reality that we live in operates. And where the Ishbitzer is taking us here is that at first it seems like actions are in our hands and God's thoughts are His. Fine, it's deep enough as it is, that's a deep concept. But he goes on. He says, but in this parashiyot, Hashem teaches us that actions are in His hands. Actions are in His hands. I put it next to the word God there. Actions are in His hands, God's hands, while thoughts are in our hands. Wow, that's so interesting. I don't think it's one or the other. I think there's an inter-inclusiveness here. But let's just clarify it for the moment. What is he saying? This is an example of what he means here when Yehuda is pushed in by an angel. Actions are in Hashem's hands. You're doing this action, Yehuda. It's your thoughts. The problem here is with thoughts. Thoughts are in our hands. What does he mean? This goes into a teaching in Ishbitz that he pulls back the level of free will to a much deeper place. The picking up of the bottle and the letting down of the bottle, even the giving of the tzedakah, the actions that I do, is that where free will is? All the things that we do, almost 99% of what we do are all conditioned in some way. Where does free will exist according to Ishbitz? It exists in such a deep place that it's not conscious. Or perhaps those of you here who know how to put these things and how you've spoken about them, I just feel that the best way for me to communicate it is that he pulls free will back to a much more subtle level. You have Chabad, you have Breslev, you have all kinds of systems that express the relationship between us and God, our free will and God's knowledge. What I'm feeling is that Ishbitz pulls it back to a very deep place. That deep place is almost like a superconscious place that we are not aware of. He says here, the thoughts are in our hands. I think you can't get it completely from this statement. We need more context. But he brings a proof first, and he actually rephrases, he he changes the meaning of the initial chazal that's in Barachot 33b, and he concludes that such that all the actions that a man does are only those that he has given leave to do. Right? That's what he just said, is that actions are in God's hands, meaning to say what Hashem allows a man to do, that's what a man does. Actions are in God's hands. What man is given leave to do. And he brings the source from Gemara in Brachot, everything is in the hands of heaven. Hakol b'idei shamayim. And the Gemara says, Chutz miyirat shamayim. Chutz miyirat shamayim. Except for yirat shamayim. All he says here is, Ki hakol b'idei shamayim. He doesn't finish the sentence actually in the Hebrew. Hakol. And that's why I include here in the English, I should have put the entire thing in brackets, including the fear of heaven, including our free will choices. And most of everything that we do is really also b'idei shamayim. I would posit that there's something that he allows us to do. And so what I see is I refer back to what we just said, which is our thoughts. Is what are our thoughts while we're doing something? I feel it's important to develop this idea, and where I see Shlomo taking it is here on page. Here I go through a number of texts from Mea Shiloach, 1 through 7. Yes.
So you say about the thought that we have the thoughts after the action. After we did the thing, because that God really brought us to do it, and then how we relate to that, how we interpret what happened.
Even during.
That's what I mean.
During also.
Okay, but that's our
that's what
free of our own thing.
And before?
Not God.
Before, during, and after, what our thoughts are. That's what we're. That's. I believe that's. And that's not every thought that I have. It's maybe the thought behind the thought. It's what I would call it is my true desire, even if I'm not able to articulate it in the midst of a situation. That's why afterwards I have time to think about it, to reflect. And even then I might not be totally clear. I might not be totally clear until much later in my life, and I can look back on what I did and reflect and truly have the thought that I should have had. It's not all going to happen all at once. And our minds are, my mind at least, I'm not on the level to think of what I want to think about always when I want to think about it. And you know, when you're talking to somebody, you're not always to say what you want to say when you want to say it. You say, oh, afterwards, I wish I would have, right? I wish I would have. That wish I would have is a real important thing. That can happen 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years afterwards. I just wanted to show you what Shlomo says on page 8. Page 8 and 9, and what I specifically want. This is transcripts from different things that I was able to gather over the years. Just to skip to the actual thing on page 10, the top. And I want to clarify here what I feel the most important use of this that Shlomo made. It's after the fact. Because Shlomo's talking to a generation of Baal Teshuvas or potential Baal Teshuvas, of people who have done stuff already. And how do we deal with that? And how do I come in contact with Hashem? How does my tshuva work if I've done things that are really antithetical to what I would like to do now? If I say to myself, oh my God, look what I did. You know, I was the lowest of the low. So Shlomo, as we said yesterday in Shabbos, was able to bring a lot of us out of thinking of ourselves as lowlifes because of